Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Woodhaven Brownstown Board of Education regular meeting of Tuesday, August 17th, called to order at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is taking place in person and via Zoom webinar. Public notice of the steps necessary to participate in this meeting were posted virtually on the district's website. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take roll?
Mrs. Pimer?
Here.
Mrs. Burton-Kelsey?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Paget?
Here.
Mr. Burke? Mrs. Bauer-Perry?
Here.
Mrs. Perry? I'm sorry, Mrs. Berry.
Here.
I'm sorry. Mr. Greathead?
Here.
Mr. Belcher?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Smith? Mrs. Vespremi? Mr. Salah? Mr. Satterfield?
Thank you. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next item is the approval of the agenda. The suggested motion is to approve the agenda as recommended. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Barry, supported by Burton. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer?
Yes.
Mrs. Burton-Kelsey?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Paget?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer-Perry? Mrs. Berry?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We will move on to item 2, would be our consent agenda. The suggested motion is to approve the consent agenda as recommended. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Harris, supported by Burton. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer?
Yes.
Mrs. Burton-Kelsey?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Paget?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer-Perry? Mrs. Berry?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion also carries. Next item would be personnel recommendations, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Greathead.
Thank you, Mrs. Pimer. We have a number of employment recommendations for board consideration this evening. The first is an administrative recommendation. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education approve the assignment of Alicia Flynn as the Woodhaven Brownstown School District's Assistant Athletic Director, effective August 18th, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Support.
Motion by Burton, supported by Barry. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer?
Yes.
Mrs. Burton-Kelsey?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mrs. Paget?
Yes.
Mr. Bauer-Perry?
Yes.
Mrs. Berry?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right, Mr. Roberts, would you please reintroduce Ms. Flynn to the Board of Education?
So Ms. Flynn is here. If you can stand up. She has been teaching for Patrick Henry Middle School for the past 2 years and coaching middle school volleyball. And she attended and graduated from Saginaw Valley State University prior to coming to Woodhaven.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We have 17 professional employment recommendations for the Board of Education to consider this evening en masse. They are Sarah Ossenmacher, Waginka Elementary School, Math Intervention. Kimberly Bardoni, Bates Elementary School and Waginka Elementary School, Special Education. Caitlin Brennan, Patrick Henry Middle School, English Language Arts. Tyler Calhoun, Brownstown Middle School, Social Studies. Renee Koch, Woodhaven High School, Science. Amanda Dennison, Yake Elementary, 2nd grade. Teresa Jackson, Patrick Henry Middle School, Spanish. Luan Kambarovsky, Woodhaven High School, Broadcasting. Ashley McFadden, Patrick Henry Middle School, Math. Rebecca McNamee, Gudith Elementary, 3rd grade. Kelsey Pizzo Anderson, Bates Elementary, 1st grade. Chelsea Randalls, Patrick Henry Middle School, English Language Arts. Sarah Roshan Mankos, Brownstown Middle School, English Language Arts. Savannah Smith, Woodhaven High School, English Language Arts. Vanessa Tyra, Patrick Henry Middle School, Math. James Walrad, Patrick Henry Middle School, English Language Arts and Technology. And Shauna Williams, Brownstown Middle School, English Language Arts. All recommendations are effective August 18th, 2021.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Harris, supported by Burton. Any discussion from the board? No? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer,
Yes.
Mrs. Burton Kelsey,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Paget,
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. Berry.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right, Mr. Roberts, if you would spend no more than 3 to 4 minutes on each candidate for us, please.
I got a dissertation for each. At this time, I'd like to ask each one of you, as I say your name, to stand. And I think Sarah walked in there. I saw that. Sarah's going to be the Weginka math interventionist. She earned her bachelor's degree from the U of M Dearborn and has 10 years of teaching experience, including intervention. Kim Bardoni. She's going to be Weginka and Bates special education teacher. She graduated this past April from Eastern Michigan University after completing her student teaching at Brownstown Middle School. Caitlin Brennan, she's going to be Patrick Henry Middle School ELA teacher. She graduated in May from Wayne State University after completing her student teaching for Wayne Weston Schools. Tyler Calhoun, BMS Social Studies, graduated from Eastern Michigan University in 2019, and this past year was a building sub for Woodhaven High School and did a long-term sub position in a social studies classroom. Renee Kosh, Woodhaven High School Science. She graduated from Eastern Michigan University and has worked the past 8 years for airport schools. Teresa Jackson, Patrick Henry Middle School Spanish. She earned her BA from Central Michigan University and her master's from Marygrove College. For the past 4 years, she has been teaching for Lincoln Consolidated Schools. Does anybody else feel like this is a pageant? I'm going to just say Louis Kamborowski, Woodhaven High School Broadcasting. He earned a bachelor's in communication from U of M Dearborn in 2013. And for the past 8 years, he has been the WDIV TV sports producer and multimedia journalist.
Welcome.
Sarah Roshan, BMS ELA. She earned her bachelor's and master's degree from Eastern Michigan University. For the past 6 years, she has worked in multiple grade levels for airport community schools.
Welcome.
Ashley McFadden, Patrick Henry Middle School Math. She earned her bachelor's from Eastern Michigan University and her master's from U of M Dearborn. She has taught the past 13 years for airport community schools.
Welcome.
Rebecca McNamee. Yeah. 3rd grade Goodeth. Rebecca earned her bachelor's degree from Madonna University and her master's from Marygrove. For the past 6 years, she has worked in the Catholic school system. Kelsey Pizzo, Bates 1st grade. She graduated from Michigan State University in 2018 and has worked the past 3 years for East Grand Rapids Public Schools. Chelsea Randalls, Patrick Henry Middle School ELA. She earned her bachelor's from Central Michigan University and has taught the past 5 years at Tipton Academy after teaching 3 years, and this is my favorite, in Bahrain. Savannah Smith, Woodhaven High School ELA. Savannah graduated from MSU for both her bachelor's and master's degrees. For the past 5 years, she has taught ELA and Spanish for Ypsilanti schools. Vanessa Tyra, Patrick Henry Middle School Math. Vanessa earned her BS and MA from Eastern Michigan University. She spent 7 years working for National Heritage Academies in Taylor before working at airport schools. James Walrad, Patrick Henry Middle School ELA and Technology. James earned his BA and MA from U of M Dearborn, and he has spent the past 11 years working at Detroit Catholic Central High School. Shauna Williams, BMS ELA. Shauna earned her BA from Wayne State and her MA from Marygrove College. She has spent the past 8 years working for Dearborn Heights District Number 7. And I believe, I don't see her, but I believe Amanda Dennison is back in the back. I saw her sneak in there. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on Amanda, and because this is probably my favorite hire all time, no offense to all of you, you'll find out why in just a second. But Amanda is a graduate of Wayne State University and has taught the past year for Dearborn Schools. She is a recipient of the Kimberly Gladwell Scholarship given to Woodhaven High School graduates for those that want to go into teaching. The part that's really cool, though, is that Chelsea Gladwell's, Kimberly's daughter, was on the interview committee and got to interview her for the position. So she said to me today, it's kind of gone full circle. And I would have spent more time on you if you guys would have won this award, but she didn't. So that is our hires. And if I can give one side note, just, I know you see the number of hirings. Every single administrator, multiple teachers came in across over the past month and a half. We had over 150 interviews, and they just really rocked it out. And I honestly, the principals that are in the audience out here and the central office team that are here is really what made it possible to get through this. Because it was a big undertaking, but we had some amazing candidates, as you can see from their resumes, and really stole the best from some of the best schools around. So we're happy about that. Not as good as us, but some of the best.
I'd just like to echo the thanks to everyone, especially to you, Greg, and I'm blown away by the talent that you've brought into the district, the number of years of experience and the new and fresh ideas that you'll be bringing forward. It's very exciting. I'm glad you all see the value of Woodhaven Brownstown. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
All right, we have 4 support staff recommendations this evening for the Board of Education to consider en masse, and they are Tim Barron, Central Office IT Tech; Yuri Diaz, Pupil Accounting and Data Specialist; James Townley, Central Office Assistant Network Administrator; and Joseph Wenzel, Central Office IT Tech. All recommendations are effective August 18th, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Barry, supported by Harris. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer,
Yes.
Mrs. Burton Kelsey,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Paget,
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. Berry.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right, thank you. Mr. Roberts?
All right, so we do have all 4 with us tonight. Tim Barron, you'd stand. Tim has 12 years of technology support experience, the past 2 years working for Allen Park Public Schools. Yuri Diaz is joining us in the Pupil Accounting Data Specialist Office, and Yuri has spent the past 4 years working for Wayne Risa as an application support technician. So she's who you call when the pupil accountants don't know what to do with MyStar, and we just stole her. So James Townley is over here. James is going to be our Assistant Network Administrator. He's moving up from the IT Tech position that he's worked in for the past 2 years. And he is currently enrolled in Western Governors University working toward a BS in Network Operations and Security. And manning the camera over there is Joe Wenzel, our next IT Tech. Joe's a 2020 Woodhaven High School graduate and a 2021 graduate from Wayne County Community College, part of the Woodhaven High School Middle College program. He has an associate's degree in computer information systems, and he's worked as a student tech for Woodhaven since 2018.
All right, thank you. Finally, we have 5 Schedule B recommendations this evening for the Board of Education to consider, again en masse. They are Mary Demjanovich, Middle School Cross Country Assistant Coach; Sean Kelly, Varsity Boys Swimming Head Coach; Kimberly Maher, 7th Grade Volleyball Head Coach; Janelle Somerset, Middle School Cross Country Head Coach; and Kaylin Default, Varsity Sideline and Competitive Cheer Head Coach. All recommendations are effective August 18th, 2021.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Harris,
Support.
supported by Barry. Any discussion from the board? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer,
Yes.
Mrs. Burton Kelsey,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Paget,
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer Perry, Mrs. Berry.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right, thank you once again, Mr. Roberts.
And 4 out of the 5 are here tonight. Mrs. Maher is on vacation, but Mrs. Damjanovic, middle school cross country. She's been teaching for Woodhaven since 2020 and has 8 years of coaching experience. Mr. Kelly is going to be boys varsity swim. Mr. Kelly has been teaching for Woodhaven since 2002 and has almost 24 years of swim coaching experience. And we have him returning to the boys coach, which he has coached before.
Thank you.
Mrs. Somerset, assistant middle school cross country coach. Mrs. Somerset brings 14 years of teaching experience and 5 years of coaching experience to assist the middle school program. Most recently, she was the volunteer coach for the 2019 elementary cross country program. And I believe Kaylin Teofalt is right behind this pole. Sideline and competitive cheer. Ms. Teofalt has been part of the Woodhaven cheer program since 2013 when she was the middle school head coach. And she has voluntarily kept the program going this summer as we conducted our search for the coach.
Thank you.
Say one last thing because I can't. Jen Forte is the secretary that probably every one of you has talked to multiple times, and the part that people don't see is how much she does behind the scenes. So I just think it's important to recognize how much she did to make this happen too.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Roberts. And I would like to thank each and every one of you. Look forward to the positive contributions you'll make here in the Woodhaven Brownstown School District, and most importantly for its students. We strive to continually improve, never plateau, and we look forward to you being a part of that journey with us and helping us reach newer heights. So thank you again. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your commitment to the Woodhaven Brownstown School District. Under new business this evening, we have the approval of the one-to-one technology initiative. Under the leadership of the Director of Technology and Instructional Integration, Joshua Satterfield, the district began planning for a true one-to-one technology initiative in January of 2021. The One-to-One Technology Initiative Committee was comprised of parents, support staff, teachers, principals, and central office personnel. The vision developed by this committee for one-to-one technologies in the Woodhaven Brownstown School District is: the Woodhaven Brownstown School District One-to-One Technology Initiative will strengthen student learning and engagement by fostering critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication beyond the classroom while providing all students with equitable access to technology. The equipment that will be issued by grade level: young fives in kindergarten, each student will be assigned an iPad. The equipment will primarily remain in the classroom. For students in 1st grade through 12th grade, each student will be assigned a Chromebook. The equipment will be available to be taken home each day. The Board of Education has also been provided with the one-to-one device use and care handout, a copy of the Technology Protection Plan, and a frequently asked questions. The Curriculum Subcommittee of the Board of Education has reviewed and is in support of the one-to-one technology initiative. Mr. Satterfield, is there anything you would like to add before I suggest a motion?
We just are excited to have this announcement revealed to the community. It's a collaboration not only with technology, but Ms. Vespremi as well of curriculum, that we want to make sure not only our kids are empowered, but also our teachers are empowered to teach and integrate technology. So we're really excited.
Thank you, Mr. Satterfield. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education approve the Woodhaven Brownstown School District One-to-One Technology Initiative as recommended.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Harris, supported by Barry. Any discussion from the board?
I just have a quick question. So there's no hardware purchase as part of this, right? This is just the strategy behind it, and then
Correct.
all of those purchases will come forward as a separate motion.
All the purchases has already been made, so
Okay.
this is just a strategy, and then the bond will sustain one-to-one for about 12 to 13 years.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, hearing none. Could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer,
Yes.
Mrs. Burton Kelsey,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Paget,
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer Perry, Mrs. Berry.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 2 is approval of bid package number 2 award monumental signage upgrades. As part of the 2021 bond program, we are recommending as bid package number 2 the replacement of current marquees at each elementary school with new digital marquees. Through a sealed bid process and post-bid interviews, the recommendation is that the following companies be awarded contract. Volk Corporation for signage in an amount of $196,630, and Amcom Telecommunications in the amount of $116,120. With a project contingency of 10%, the total sum of these bid awards is $344,025, utilizing 2021 bond program funds. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education approve the award of contracts as recommended for bid package number 2, elementary digital marquees.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Support.
Motion by Burton, supported by Paget. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Ekman, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pimer,
Yes.
Mrs. Burton Kelsey,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Paget,
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer Perry, Mrs. Berry.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you
I
very
don't know
much.
if you may have stated, those will be installed, do we have a time frame?
Mr. Belcher, do we have is it by November?
It's this fall. We'll have to work with companies to update the time frame right now, but it will be
Over the next few months, okay.
yes within the next few months.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the district's COVID preparedness discussion. I just want to recap for the Board of Education and the members in the audience, individuals in the audience, the district's preparedness plan for this coming school year. As it pertains to face masks, the current plan for the Woodhaven Brownstown School District is that we recommend all face masks for all students and staff. This is a recommendation. For quarantines, as of June 1st, 2021, the latest guidance we've received from Wayne County Health Department, a 10-day self-quarantine if identified as a close contact, which is within 6 feet of a positive case for 15 consecutive minutes. No self-quarantine is required if the individual identified as a close contact has a PCR positive within the last 5 months, or the individual identified as a close contact has been fully vaccinated and it has been at least 14 days since their last dose, or the exposure occurred in a classroom, both individuals were masked and were sitting at least 3 feet apart, and the close contact remains asymptomatic. In regards to social distancing, the current plan is to maintain status quo, socially distance students to the greatest extent possible. However, this is limited based on varying class sizes. It is the same plan and program we had in place in the 2020-21 school year. Daily screener. Current plan is the use of a daily health screener for students and staff is encouraged, utilizing the most recent screener questions that have been provided by the Wayne County Health Department. Enhanced cleaning. Our current plan is to utilize additional custodial staff to clean and disinfect high touch points throughout the day, and at evening, electrostatic disinfection of all learning spaces. All of our buildings have improved ventilation filters, and the filter replacement process has been accelerated. For PPE and signage, we are ordering more masks, and while we do have plenty on hand, we do anticipate greater usage with mandatory mask use being required on school buses. We are replacing all best practice and directional signage from the previous school year, and we have a sufficient supply of disinfecting and cleaning products on hand. We estimate enough for 2 school years. The current plan for our remote learners. Remote students will be enrolled in Edgenuity online classes. A Woodhaven Brownstown School District teacher will be assigned as a mentor to those students, providing minimally 2 two-way communications per week with that mentor. We are also working both administratively and have reached out to our lead teacher union on ways to improve this remote learning plan. And then finally, for student social emotional health. Our current plan is for K-5 students, daily close gap student surveying for needs with follow-up from our school social workers, and also small group and whole group social emotional learning lessons through district-provided second step curriculum. For students in grades 6 through 12, weekly screener of students surveying for needs with follow-up from the school social workers and counselors, and also small group and whole group SEL lessons through district-provided second step curriculum. And then for K-12 students, Aperture Student Risk Screening Scale with regular feedback from the buildings, and school-based mental health toolkit, training all district staff during the 2021-22 school year. With that, I ask, are there any questions from our Board of Education?
I have a question for Mr. Belcher. If he could emphasize any changes in the cleaning protocol from last year, or will it be the same? In between classes, before school?
The cleaning protocols will be the exact same as last year, minus the in-between class desk cleaning that was facilitated primarily by teachers.
Why did we stop that?
It was a requirement last year. It's no longer a requirement.
Can you talk about the training you mentioned between 2021 and 2022 school year, the mental health? I don't know if that's you or
Sure,
somebody.
I'd defer to Mr. Salah.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So the mental health toolkit training, it covers a lot of different wide-ranging topics from trauma to substance abuse support, body dysmorphia, and train our staff and all of us on how to be what they call first aiders. So not necessarily the mental health professionals, but how to listen effectively to kids to get some information and then work with our community partners to get them additional support that can't be provided.
So there actually is like a mental health 911. Is it similar to that? Okay.
Yes, but it's providing this, certified training for every one of our staff members, so we can also use the same common language and approach all of these mental health things.
Focused
By
on.
having all of our bus drivers and secretaries and paraprofessionals train the same language and all work together to make sure we get
And obviously focused on adolescents, right? Because I know there's a different for adults versus. Okay.
But
Awesome.
this specific training is really geared towards the audience that we're doing. So if we're working with a group of teachers that would be working with strategists for that grade level.
Mhm.
If we're working with bus drivers, we might look at more broad approach.
And the
Help with that.
and the goal would be to have everyone in the all employees of the district trained by the end of the school year. Is that what I heard by the end of next June? Well, that's great. Thank you.
We reviewed this training at the last curriculum,
Oh.
special education, technology meeting. I'm not really sure what we call it anymore. And it was really very interesting, and I personally asked Mr. Salah if I could attend. And he did make a spot available to me, so I would suggest to our board, anybody that wants to participate, I may be stepping out of line here, but I think Mr. Salah would make it available. It's an 8 to 12 that I'm attending, so it's a 4-hour commitment if you're interested and you want to learn the same language that we're asking our district
Yeah.
to learn. I was really impressed with what he shared.
Thank you.
So Mark, I got a question. We are following the Wayne County Health Department recommendations, guidelines. We did that last year.
We haven't received
And-
guidance from Wayne County Health Department since June 1st.
Okay.
Now, I was led to believe that as early as last Friday, we would receive guidance from Wayne County Health Department. It obviously wasn't received. What didn't come yesterday, thought it might come by the end of the day today, and it still has not been received.
Okay, but our plan is to continue, I mean, that's what we did last year. Well, we had mandates from the governor, and then it went to Wayne County Health Department. So as a
And
district,
even
we
the
plan to
Michigan
do that.
Department of Health and Human Services last year
Okay.
provided emergency orders, which we were required to follow.
Right.
They weren't recommendations, they were orders and mandates that we were required to follow. And they did that as often as 2 times per month last school year.
Right,
What they've given school districts right now is a recommendation.
okay. And if there were something that were to change, we will follow in alignment with that. I'm just trying to get, I know what it
Yeah,
is.
oh
I'm
yeah,
just
sure.
trying to explain to the audience where we're getting, what
Mhm.
we're following. We're not just guessing on some things. We are following what we've been following since last year, since day one. So we're not making any changes. We're following exactly what we did last year.
Well, there's
Whatever's-
no longer a state
Right.
mandated,
So we're not
yeah,
making.
face mask mandate.
Exactly,
It's a recommendation, so
Right.
hence the reason why we're recommending it.
Right.
But it's no longer a mandate.
I guess I'd like to ask for some further discussion with the board about not cleaning in between classes. It's something I wasn't aware of, and I'm not sure if every other board member was. I think it was an extra safety measure. To my knowledge, it went smoothly, with the teachers and the support staff pitching in. I know it's a little bit more and tedious work for those individuals, but it's just an extra liner of safety for our children.
Look at it, but I think that it was pulled back, not us, but the recommendations from the CDC, because they found that it didn't make a difference in transmission, cleaning the desks. I don't remember the exact wording of it, but that's why they no longer mandated it.
Yeah, and they also discontinued the mandate of the touch points every 4 hours like they had because due to that. But we will maintain the touch points throughout the building.
Do we still have, like sanitizer stations and
Yes.
Clorox wipes and things like that available for?
Every classroom is equipped with a sanitizer station. They're sprinkled all throughout the hallways, restrooms. All of that is available. We have ample supplies for any staff that would request it.
In their room?
We can provide training with that, so we're prepared.
Anything else from the board? No?
I don't want the point to be lost. If we are to pursue the question that Mr. Harris has raised, it would require me to negotiate that with our collective bargaining group. And so I would need formal direction if that's the route that the district wants me to take.
Well, I actually need an opportunity to think about that. I'm not prepared to give any direction this evening, Mr. Greathead, personally.
Yeah, I think it would be good to gather a little information on it, as Ms. Berry had stated, whether that recommendation, if something was discontinued, what it would take to negotiate, what that would look like. Maybe you could put something together for the board to make a decision.
Sure, I can certainly gather information. If there are no further questions from the Board of Education, I would suggest we transition to item number 6, hearing of the public.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hearing of the public, we ask if you would like to speak during hearing of the public, that you fill out a comment card. I believe, are they over by you?
They're in the back
or-
of the room.
They're actually in the back of the room. And then you could turn it into Mrs. Ekman there. If you are on Zoom with us, you can raise your hand in the Zoom link, and we can call on you also. I do have a few here with me now that would like to speak. I have Reagan.
Kara, can you review the board policy on those that are speaking, if they would state
Yeah.
their-
Basically, we ask when you come to the podium, you state your name and address, and we try to limit the comments to 5 minutes and be reasonable.
I have a question in
the
regards to
time.
that. So, and maybe I forgot. So anybody can comment even if they don't live in the community and they don't have kids that come to the school district? Anybody can? So we're not asking whether they have children in the school district? That's another question. Don't you think that'd be relevant or no?
I'm sure if they'd like to state whether they have
mean,
children, we can ask that,
That would
but
be nice
anybody
to
can
know if you
comment.
had kids in the school district, or you're just speaking on just behalf of yourself
I
and
just
not your
Yeah.
child.
like to know that we follow the board policy. I know that we've gotten away with, from that. Just, I think that would help identify also if they're
Yeah, it's,
in or out of the district.
yeah, I understand that, and again, it's really the policy is a 5-minute time limit that we have, but again, we try to be reasonable with time so you can finish your comments, but we ask that you try to stick to the 5 minutes. And again, in Zoom, if you let me know if somebody raises their hand in Zoom, and if you would please state if you're, well, by stating your address, if you're a district resident and if you have students in our district. Are you Reagan? Okay.
Hi, I'm Reagan Hawkins. I'm from Brownstown, and I have 2 girls at Wekinka. My family has taken the suggested precautions throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. We were looking forward to sending our daughters to school at Wekinka this fall. They completed kindergarten and 2nd grade with their amazing teachers who are participating in the remote learning option. We were so excited to get our girls back with their friends and their teachers in the classroom this year, until the mask policy was released. I'm extremely concerned and angered about the lack of a universal mask mandate in our schools, especially with how quickly cases are increasing. According to the CDC, our county is now in an area with substantial to high transmission in which people need to mask in public places. The CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, Michigan Department of Health, Wayne County Health Department, and the Department of Education all recommend that schools require universal masking in schools. Yet WBSD is leaving the decision up to families. The district is not following these guidelines as stated earlier today. Why is the opinion of some parents, mostly without medical or science degrees, helping to decide the health and safety protocols of the district? The only guidelines you should be following are the ones you receive from the CDC, Michigan Department of Health, and the Wayne County Health Department, which recommend you require masking. Which of those told you that optional masking was safe in our schools? Why do these agencies need to force you into putting the safety and health of our kids first? Many schools are already making the right decision to universally require masks without a mandate in place by the health department. It's time that the Woodhaven Brownstown School District does the same. I understand and respect the need for parents to make choices with their family in mind, but these freedoms should end when they endanger the lives of others. Studies throughout the pandemic have shown that the primary function of a mask is to protect those around the person wearing it. Masks are most effective in preventing transmission when everyone wears them. In other words, sending my children to school wearing a mask will provide limited protection if those around them are not doing the same. Experts are finding that not only is the Delta variant more transmissible, it can be transmitted by those who have been vaccinated and is spreading more readily among kids, resulting in increased hospitalization and illness in children in recent weeks. Just last week, the U.S. hit record number of children hospitalized with COVID. Kids also play a huge role in the transmission chain. Even if they're asymptomatic, they can easily spread COVID to members of their household and community. Elementary-age children are not yet eligible for a vaccine, and masks are a public health measure that have proven to reduce the spread of COVID. In addition to the implications for the health of students, staff, and their families, this decision has the potential to be a logistical nightmare for teachers and staff. Teachers not only need to support students in mask wearing, but also track which students are meant to wear masks and which are not, which has the potential to change by the week as case numbers continue to fluctuate. The lack of a mask mandate also increases the likelihood that in-person learning will be interrupted, as it gives COVID the opportunity to more easily spread. Families abide by countless requirements when sending their children to public schools, many of which involve dress code. It shouldn't be too much to ask for students to wear one additional article of clothing when it could be the difference between a classmate or teacher's life. Thank you.
Next we have Carrie.
Hello, my name is Carrie Sove. I live in the district and will have a daughter starting Young Fives at Weginka in a few weeks. I have made the choice for our family that she will go in a mask, but as the person before me said, that helps everybody else, more than it helps her. She is 4 years old, and the only thing she said when I asked her if she was okay with wearing a mask, even if everybody else wasn't, was she asked me to buy more to match all her outfits. She understands that this mask will help her baby sister not contract the disease, and I just wish there was more of a community effort to help other people. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services recommended the key strategies to keep schools safer. They listed them in order of importance. The first one was to promote vaccines, and the second one was to use consistent and correct mask use. It wasn't asking to promote masks, it was asking to wear masks. The CDC is recommending universal masks indoors. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends a layered approach, which includes face masks, unless I understand medical or developmental conditions that prohibit use, which I'm sure would be involved in their IEPs if they cannot wear them. I also looked at community statistics. We are in Region 2 South for the state, and the amount of pediatric hospitalizations with COVID has doubled since Friday. The state updates the statistics Tuesdays and Fridays, so it was updated today. We, of course, have the highest in the state. Children's Hospital in Detroit, their bed occupancy is at 82%. And Region 2 South would include Children's Hospital and Mott Hospital. Washtenaw County is included. Mott Hospital does not list their statistics separately. It's under the University of Michigan Healthcare. What else do I have? The ICU beds in our region is 76%. That is for adult and children. So I understand wanting children to return to normal. I hear that a lot. We want children to return to normal, but what is normal these days? Because I don't want normal, like having my friends to go through, or my kids or their friends, parents and grandparents dying at a more alarming rate. That's not normal as well. I think the rush to be normal is too quick. The southern states that are not issuing mask mandates are relooking their policies as it is, and I actually think that in a few weeks they'll probably be mandated here as well, but I guess we will see. I encourage you to rethink these things, especially for the elementary kids who are not able to get a vaccine. I will be giving my children vaccine when it is approved for my children's age groups, but I don't have that choice yet. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'm not used to speaking, but I think I covered everything. But yes, I encourage you to rethink mask wearing for at least children who are not able to be vaccinated.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking. And next we have Morgan.
Hi, my name is Morgan Moat. I live at 23730 Carter in Brownstown. This is actually the first year I have a child in the district, although she's only 10 months old, so this is about the early on tote program. She just started in January. She had a traumatic birth injury due to oxygen deprivation, and so she follows up with neurologists, the special developmental clinic. Everything is going pretty well so far, but that's why she is in the program. There are some concerns that she might be showing some signs of cerebral palsy. It's not 100% sure, so we're just trying to navigate that. And I do absolutely love that program, even though I know it's on Zoom, and I appreciate the district, working with that and making that available to us. And I do love the woman, Kim, who is, I don't know, her caseworker or the person that's working with us. I've just heard, through the grapevine at the park, teachers, parents, I'm not sure. I tried to listen to the meeting from last month, but there was music playing over on YouTube, so I couldn't hear. I'm not sure if you discussed if the early on tote program was coming back in person this year. So I guess my only thing to say is I would appreciate that if that was an option, because it is physical interaction that she needs. It's articulation to see the mouth moving, of the person that's working with her, and I really do appreciate them trying on Zoom. It's just a little funny because, you know, they're trying to say, you know, move her leg, no, the other leg, you know, move it up, not that far, you know, and I'm doing my best, but I'm not the professional, and I appreciate the staff that you guys hire to do that. I don't know if there's a way to do an option that if, I understand other parents, especially with young kids in that program, don't want people coming into their home right now. I completely understand that, so I don't know if there's a way that they can do a Zoom option or an in-person option. I'd be willing to bring my child to any of the facilities to do that meeting. I'd be willing to take them to their house if that's easier for the staff member. That's really all I have to say about it. I did hear something that maybe they were going to do it in person, but they would be required to stay 6 feet away from the child, which again sort of defeats the purpose because I really do need hands-on physical help with her. I guess that's really only my request, or maybe I can email. I should probably email someone to get more information. She just wasn't sure that the decision had been made yet for the fall. So that's just one person's, you know, just as a parent.
Megan, I'm going to have Mr. Slough follow up with you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay, and he'll be able to provide you all the information that you need.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have Dustin Fitzpatrick via Zoom that would like to speak.
Hello. Sorry, I was unmuting my microphone. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, yes, we can.
Hi, I'm going to step outside. It's very loud where I am. Hello, I'm back. Can you still hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. As a few predecessors who spoke had mentioned, the masking is what I would like to bring up and discuss. I have over a decade of experience in healthcare, up through executive leadership where I currently reside.
Can you state where if you're from the district?
Oh, yeah. I live in Forest Heights, 21567 Hildebrandt Drive. That's in Brownstown. I have 3 children in the district at Yake, all at Yake Elementary.
Thank you.
No problem. My greatest concern lies in the fact that the series of guidelines being provided, as have been discussed through the CDC, the Michigan State, the Undersecretary for Education and Health, the American Association of Pediatrics, et cetera, in addition to our current Wayne County high-risk status, the current case transmission, and the 14-day average showing case increases at or over 100%, including hospitalizations. I can validate because I have counterparts in the Detroit area where I do work. The children's hospitalizations have gone up, intubations have gone up, et cetera. Given this, masking is the best option. Sadly, I do disagree with the current guidelines you've put out. I believe they are grossly negligent in the fact that they are not following those guidelines. I can tell you that with a decade of experience in interpreting CDC guidelines, these fall under the recommendation category no matter what, meaning they recommend certain antibiotics pre and post procedure, et cetera, to prevent you from being sick. They never require. It's up to the organization or institution to require. Based on the current statistics and where we are in the pandemic, and mind you, I've spent the last year and a half with Region 2A and 2B South in developing all of the COVID protocols for the organization where I work. I know it. I know it very, very well. Just based on that experience, I have a very, very broad healthcare background as well. Given that we have, at the bare minimum, a population under the age of 12 years old who have not been vaccinated, and every guideline from this state and beyond, and the federal government are really not just recommending, but it's required. The recommendation is to require the masking, especially for that age group. That's going to be your most vulnerable and the most at risk for transmission, and at this point, acquiring a symptomatic variant. And God forbid one of those children becomes sick, transmit it to others, and even worse, end up in the hospital and or dead, which is what we're seeing. Though the mortality rate is very, very low at this point, as you've all seen, this virus is mutating, not following the standard epidemiologic process, where it increases in transmissibility and decreases in potency. We're seeing this increase in both potency and transmissibility. So it's very strange the way this is mutated beyond what a standard influenza or whatever may be, or other coronaviruses. Your common rhinoviruses are coronaviruses as well. Keep that in mind. Those have mutated countless times and become less virulent, less potent. This one, though, has not. So it's very strange, and we're still within the infancy of its mutating phases. Again, masking, for those wearing the mask, it prevents the transmission to others. And if you're not universally requiring that masking, you're allowing the option to wear the mask, especially at the age group that hasn't had that layered protection, which is the other requirement, layered protection, not only cleaning, but vaccination, etc. Your age group's 12 and older, can be vaccinated, and I would support a recommended masking or an optional masking, but at this point, I'm asking the board to reconsider, especially for the high-risk age group at this point, 12 and under. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking, Dustin. Next, we have Katie Carpenter via Zoom.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Hi, yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, my internet's a little spotty. My name is Katie Carpenter. I live on Colonial Drive in Woodhaven, and I'm a parent of 3 children, 2 of which are currently enrolled in the Woodhaven Brownstown School District. My children are excited to start school. My oldest spent all of last year doing distance learning due to the pandemic. She's missed her friends and the experiences that she would have had at school that she can't always have at home. She's been really looking forward to going into 3rd grade and getting back to her old routine and seeing her friends and having something of a normal childhood again. My other child has been preparing to go into kindergarten. It's all she's been able to talk about this summer, and she's constantly reminding me that she gets to go to school like her older sister in the fall. At least that's been our hope. My children are 8, 5, and 4 years old, and for the last year and a half, they have understood the personal sacrifices that we have all had to make to ensure that we stay safe and that our friends and extended family stay safe too. We've canceled birthday parties, holidays, and vacations. We've spent more time at home than we've ever been used to. When we do leave the house, it's with the understanding that they must wear masks at all times. Despite their young ages, mask wearing has never been an issue with them because it's never been an issue for myself or my husband, because we have made a point of teaching them that wearing masks is the right thing to do for our community. My 3rd grader and my kindergartner also understand that mask wearing needs to extend to school. I understand that the school board and the administration have decided that mask wearing is meant to be a personal choice, but I'm asking you tonight to reconsider this decision for the sake of our students' health and the health of the surrounding community. There was a peer-reviewed study published in JAMA in February of this year by Dr. John T. Brooks and J.C. Butler titled Effectiveness of Mask Wearing to Control Community Spread of SARS-CoV-2, and it outlines the benefits of mask wearing. The study explains that COVID-19 spreads primarily through respiratory droplets exhaled when infected people breathe, talk, cough, sneeze, or sing. Most of these droplets are smaller than 10 micrometers in diameter and often referred to as aerosols. The amount of small droplets and particles increase with the rate and force of airflow during exhalation. Exposure is greater the closer a person is to the source of exhalations. Larger droplets fall out of the air rapidly, but small droplets and the dried particles formed around them can remain suspended in the air. In circumstances with poor ventilation, typically indoor enclosed spaces where an infected person is present for an extended period, the concentrations of these small droplets and particles can build sufficiently to transmit infection. Community mask wearing substantially reduces transmission of COVID in 2 ways. First, masks prevent infected persons from exposing others to COVID by blocking the exhalation of virus-containing droplets into the air. This aspect of mask wearing is especially important because it is estimated that at least 50% or more of transmissions are from people who never develop symptoms or those who are in the pre-symptomatic phase of the COVID-19 illness. Second, masks protect uninfected wearers. Masks form a barrier to large respiratory droplets that could land on exposed mucous membranes of the eye, nose, and mouth. Masks can also partially filter out small droplets and particles from inhaled air. The observed effectiveness of cloth masks to protect the wearer is lower than their effectiveness of blocking exhalation of virus-containing droplets into the air, which is why it's so important for everyone to wear them. I have personally done a lot of research into this, and there are dozens of these peer-reviewed studies that corroborate the same findings. They can be found in places like JAMA, the Annals of Internal Medicine, and the European Respiratory Journal. Masks are most effective when everyone is wearing them. Regardless of whatever our feelings may be on them, the science speaks for itself. At the last board meeting, there was a woman who spoke claiming that there was a study published in JAMA claiming that masks increased carbon dioxide inhalation. But JAMA printed a retraction to this study on July 16th of this year, citing that there were numerous problems with how it was conducted. For that reason, it should not be used as evidence against mask wearing in our schools. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is currently recommending that all students, staff, teachers, and school visitors wear masks indoors regardless of vaccination status. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is currently recommending universal masking in our schools. The Michigan chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics is also calling for universal masking in our schools. To be frank, are any members of WBSD's Board of Education qualified to say that the CDC, MDHHS, and AAP are all wrong? Are any of you epidemiology or infectious disease experts? The fact of the matter is that Michigan is currently staring down the possibility of another surge of COVID-19. We have the ability to do everything we can to protect our students, staff, and the general community at large. This is not a common cold, and it's not a strain of the flu. It is a novel virus, meaning that it's new to humans. It has a high transmission rate, and more than 600,000 people so far in the US alone have died from COVID and COVID complications, and many of the survivors are suffering with long-term complications after contracting it. We are still learning about its future effects on the human body, and we don't know yet what kind of long-term health consequences will befall our children if they get COVID-19. What we do know is that the virus spreads rapidly once people are exposed, and we know that wearing masks works to mitigate the spread throughout our community. We are seeing the effects of a lack of masking in schools in Texas and Florida, where COVID cases among students and staff are currently skyrocketing. In a recent newsletter explaining the current masking rules, Mr. Greathead said that he wanted to foster a culture that is safe and inclusive for all in the district. The decision to make masks optional is neither safe nor inclusive for our kids. Inclusivity would demand that we take into consideration the most vulnerable people in our community, especially our kids, especially the youngest, and especially those with pre-existing conditions that can exacerbate the symptoms of COVID and put them at greater risk of death or complications. It is our job as parents, as educators, as administrators, and as members of the community to put our kids' safety above our personal feelings or political lines. A refusal to make masks mandatory in our schools shows a callousness and a severe lack of empathy for WBSD students. It's my hope that
Carpenter,
masks
I don't want to interrupt you, but I apologize. The 5 minutes are up. If you could just finish up in a few seconds, please.
Yep, I'm at the end, sorry. It's my hope that masks will be required so that my children will be able to do face-to-face learning. Otherwise, many of us will be faced with having to make the difficult decision of whether or not to send our children back to the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking. Next, via Zoom, we have, I believe it's Tanya W.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Wilson, and I am a parent, resident, taxpayer, and voter in the Woodhaven Brownstown School District. I live in the Heritage Sub. I realize these are public meetings. However, I feel that only residents and parents in the school district should be able to speak regarding the district's decision to make masks optional. The opinions of outsiders do not belong in decisions being made that directly affect my child. At least one of the two women that spoke out at the board meeting last month do not live here and do not have children attending school in the district. There was a group of people going to school board meetings in the Downriver area and spreading misinformation. Misinformation such as the research letter, it was not a scientific study, published in the Journal of American Medical Association, mentioned last month by a non-resident, do not belong in the decision about keeping our children safe. The letter has now been retracted due to the misinformation in it. Misinformation is dangerous, especially coming from those that are supposed to be in a field of science. I guess if masks are dangerous, well, then I suppose kids should stop wearing masks at Halloween as well. We have a 5-year-old son starting kindergarten this year. He's very excited to start school, but our excitement was diminished when we heard masks would be optional, as his mask protects others and others' masks protect him, since he is too young to be vaccinated. All of you know that virtual learning for a 5-year-old would likely prove to be ineffective due to short attention spans. The CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Michigan Board of Education, and Michigan Department of Health strongly recommend universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to K through 12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. We've learned what works and what doesn't work since February of 2020. We teach science, and we should be following the science and data that keep our children safe. Is the school board prepared for the possible lawsuits from putting our children in harm's way and being willfully negligent? I support mandatory masks for everyone in our schools until they are no longer needed. Lastly, voter turnout is low for school board elections, but I am part of a small percentage that votes in all elections. I will remember the choices being made by the board now when they are up for re-election. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have, I believe it's still via Zoom, Desiree, I believe.
Me? Okay, my name is Desiree Mousseau. I have 2 disabled children at Yake. My address is 16664 Sherwood. One of the main interventions put forward by the AAP is that all students over age of 2 and all school staff should wear masks at school unless they have a medical or developmental condition that prohibits this. When you have a degree of viral dynamics in the community and you have a substantial proportion of the population unvaccinated, you want to go to the extra step, you want to go the extra mile to make sure that there's no transmission, even breakthrough infections among vaccinated individuals. I believe masks should be required and mandated. It's better to be proactive than reactive. And as the parent of an immunocompromised child, I'm very disheartened by this decision. I am a nurse. I have credentials through Harvard Medical School, and I am just completely appalled by this district. I went to Yake. I went to BMS. I went to PHMS. I went to WHS. I have been through all of it. My brother, my cousins, everyone. And I'm just beside myself, quite frankly. This has no science behind it. Do you guys understand what physics go behind mechanical ventilation? Have you ever done CPR on a child? Have you ever ran a crash cart into a room with a mother crying, her children not breathing? Have you ever done CPR until someone's ribs are broken and completely exhausted yourself and it still wasn't good enough? And then go tell that child's parents, there's nothing else you can do. Until you have done something like that, until you have witnessed children dying, I don't think you have any room to speak on what should and shouldn't be mandated. There needs to be science, there needs to be physics, there needs to be a lot more on board. And I don't know where you're getting your recommendations from. I don't know who you have consulted. Masks need not be politicized, and they are. This is a humanitarian crisis. We're supposed to be raising model citizens. These children have to live by rules their entire life. They don't get to pick and choose. They don't get to throw fits when they don't want to do something. This is for the better good of everyone in the district. And even if wearing masks in all of the schools for all of the kids prevents even one death, I think we've done our job. And I have an immunocompromised son who has chronic graft versus host disease of the lungs. He has had 2 bone marrow transplants. He has been home for 2 years. When he was in 3rd grade, he read at 6th grade level. He's in 5th grade, and he reads about a 3rd grade level. The learning loss will never be recovered. He will not be living up to his potential if he's unable to go to school. And I hope you take all of the disabled children, all of the immunocompromised children into consideration, because physically disabled children are being left behind. They're not able to safely return to school without masks being mandated. Why aren't we being proactive as opposed to reactive, especially with minor children, children under 12 years old, children that can't make decisions for themselves? Why are we waiting until children get sick? Why are we waiting? And if you have someone with a severe viral load sitting in a classroom for several hours, everybody's going to get sick. Do you have substitute teachers to fill those places? I just wish you would reconsider. And I think it's a humanitarian issue, and we need to raise good model citizens. And I'm very disheartened. I've lived here my entire life. I have been a nurse. I have been a mom to a pediatric bone marrow transplant patient. I have sat in a hospital for the majority of his life. He's been wearing a mask since he was 2 years old. And don't give me this, oh, they have learning disabilities, they can't wear a mask. Yes, they can. He has Asperger's. He has a mask on since he was 2. You train your children, and they will do it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there any further via Zoom before I move on? Okay. We have a few more here with us. Brandon? If you could just state your name and address.
My name is Brandon Billups. I live at 22879 Nadine. Me and my wife both went to Woodhaven High School. We were not present last meeting to for all the mask related stuff. And last year, when everything had been set up, the way that the Woodhaven School District was working, standing out from everybody else, I just wanted to thank you guys. I am so grateful for you, and I really am happy that you're leaving recommendations as recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lindsay.
So my name is Lindsay. I live in Wyandotte, but I do have a 4th grader in Waginka. He's been going there since kindergarten. I will be quite frank, I was not expecting to speak, so I do apologize. I did not prepare anything, but I did want to say thank you for leaving it up to the parents. I do know a couple other people said that yes, everyone can wear masks, but that's not true. Not every kid is the same, and they all know it. I do apologize, but my son, he struggled. He really did. He had anxiety. It took a very long time to even get him used to wearing it, just long enough to make it through school. It caused anxiety attacks with him. He panicked. It would cause freakouts. He said that he couldn't breathe. Then it also caused a lot of other issues at home because then he got mad at me. So unfortunately, I did not have the ability to teach him at home. I'm a single parent. I work full time. So my only option was sending him to school. I do understand that last year was kind of, I don't want to say an experiment, but you kind of had to figure out what worked for all the kids. And I do understand that a lot of kids aren't able to go without the mask because they're immunocompromised. But on the other hand, in situations like that, parents are prepared to take care of their kids in that way, and they have the ability and know their child and know what they can do. So generalizing a whole population of kids based off of that one child and their inability to not be around without a mask, that's fine, but I also don't think that all the other children that do struggle and that don't have weakened immune systems That's not fair to them. They want to go to school, they want to learn, they want to be, you know, participating, and it's not good mentally for the kids to wear a mask the whole day. It's just not. Like I said, I didn't prepare anything. I have looked up studies. I have gotten a lot of the information from government websites themselves, from the studies. So I'm not just saying that, well, I just wanted to say thank you for leaving it up to the parents. And I don't think that it's very nice for everybody to bully you guys into changing your opinion on things. When it comes down to the state, when they mandate it, it's going to be out of your control. If they feel like it's necessary, the state would have mandated it. They would have told you, you have no choice, the kids have to wear a mask. Right now, they're only leaving it as a recommendation because even at a state and government level, they don't think it's necessary to mandate it at this time. So I do appreciate you guys just leaving it up to the parents for this time while you guys can give it this time. Thank you.
Next we have Heather.
Hello, I'm Heather and I am from Trenton. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but someone said that experts have, and you shouldn't listen to people from outside of the district, and that got under my skin. And because your CDC and your Michigan Health, they're not in the district, they don't know what's going on here. But I wanted to speak on behalf of teachers. You see, I was a teacher, I'm the mother of 5, and a long time ago when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I was told that I needed to wear a mask in my classroom because if I didn't, something terrible was going to happen to my baby. So for 6 weeks, I taught kindergarten in a mask. I did all kinds of fun things. I made, funny mouths, and I tried really hard. But let me tell you what happened to my kids. They declined. They became aggressive to the point where I had a student attack me. A 5-year-old attacked me. Children need to see facial expressions. They need to see you articulate your words. How are they going to learn to speak properly? There is going to be an uptick in speech therapy, developmental therapy. There is going to be problems with social and developmental disorders because of these decisions. I was a person that made masks. I sat for hours sewing because I wanted to help. But when it started to come out that this virus was smaller than the weave of the fabric or the surgical mask that is basically a coffee filter, I took another look at it and I wanted to see what happens to your oxygen levels. The temperature in your mouth rises and they're finding that children are having more cavities at your pediatric dentist. These are things outside of the scope of the virus. These are long-term effects. I trust you will do what is best for these children, that you will see the whole picture and not just the fear that is coming from these Zoom calls or from these mothers. There's more to this picture. There's children that are going to be affected for this for the rest of their lives. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for seriously considering the opinions of the people. And thank you for, at this time, allowing the parents to make these choices. Have a good night.
Next we have, is it Danielle or Daniela? Well, yeah, at the time that
Good evening, board. Hello, parents, everybody. I am the one that goes around and talks to everybody at the school boards. It's me. I'm guilty. I'm guilty for trying to advocate for our children. I'm guilty.
Sorry, can you state your name?
Yes, my name is Shannon. I wasn't going to speak because I was just being respectful, but like Heather said, it just got under my skin because we all have voices here. We are Americans. It's freedom of speech. So here I am. I just wanted to say, CDC, everyone likes to quote CDC. Let's just say children under 18 that are healthy, survival rate, 99.98%. Just want to say that. Okay, so we're freaking out over survival rate, over 99.99%. I also want to know, this $42 billion that the NIH budgeted for our kids to spend on COVID-19 research, that's what our kids are, basically guinea pigs. It really bothered me that there was no grants on these kids with masking and how they helped them throughout their coverage throughout the whole 8 hours that they're in these masks. There was no grants, no studies to see if they even worked. So I just want to know, and I just want to thank you, the board, for being leaders and listening to the parents and allowing it to be our choice, because ultimately it doesn't matter how many degrees, how many credentials we have. My credential is I'm a mom and I say what happens to my kids. Bottom line. Thank you. I retract my rest of my time.
Okay, so we have Dominic here.
Hello, my name is Dominic Rosa, and I am a resident of Woodhaven Brownstown School District. I live at 25851 Bridgewood, and I'm also a teacher in one of the neighboring districts. I've sat here and listened to a lot of people talk about the impacts of COVID tonight, and I can say firsthand from what I've saw over the past year, I've had to watch kids who should have, for every, they should have had a completely normal school year last year. And I've had to watch kids miss out on scholarships, miss out on having their senior seasons because people would not take this seriously. People want to sit there and say, you don't need masks, it's up to the parent's discretion. Oh, my degree's being a parent. I teach science. I teach biology, I teach chemistry. Teaching, much like science, is data-driven. We have data showing that if we follow these specific precautions, things will go smoothly. And I watched over the past year the students who did not take this seriously, the families who did not take this seriously, their kids missed out on weeks and weeks and weeks of school. And guess where they were compared to the people who did take it seriously? That's right, they were well behind. If they didn't fail, they were right on the border. And as I said, coaching a team that is actually relatively decorated in the district that I'm in, I watch kids who should have been competing on the national stage miss out on that opportunity because half of my team had to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks because of quarantine. And anybody in here who is any part of athletics knows a 10-day quarantine, you might as well sit the bench for the rest of the season because you're done. If we do not take this seriously, we're going to be right back to square one. The Delta variant is much more virulent than the original was, and we need to treat it as such. Now, parents aren't here bullying them as much as some people would like to think they are. They're not. They're trying to do what is best for their kids. And unfortunately, that decision is out of their hands. So I just want to make sure that I got my 2 cents in as a fellow educator on this situation. And I appreciate the magnitude of the decision that is in your guys' lap. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ruth?
Hi, I'm Ruth Tazzi. I live at 23511 West Fairway Drive in Woodhaven. I will be extremely brief. I'm a retired speech and language pathologist. You cannot be a speech pathologist and wear a mask, and neither can the child. I'm a very animated person. It is extremely important that children see that animation. Walking around like this does not help anything. That's all I have to say. Please be aware that your child could not go to speech and language therapy and wear a mask.
Thank you. Next, we have some waiting on Zoom. We have Leslie Pagnelli.
Hello, this is Leslie.
Hi, Leslie. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I am at football practice, so if it gets a little loud. So Leslie Paganelli, I live in the Timber Creek sub behind Waginka Elementary. I'm a registered nurse for 22 years, work in the operating room. I've seen lots over my time. COVID is definitely not something that you tread lightly with. Last year, I know somebody mentioned the kind of experimental part about it. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what was going on. The whole vaccine thing gets to me because it's not a vaccine. This is a shot. It's a COVID shot, like the flu shot. Every year, every 6 months, we've already seen it mutated. It's going to change. The strain is going to change like it does with the flu every year. So next year's COVID strain or next year's flu strain, we can only be as good as the year before. I want the choice. Like my husband and I said last year at the start of school with the 2 Zooms, we just want the choice. I don't look at anybody and judge anybody for being nervous, scared, you want to wear a mask. You do you. At the end of the day, I've been very, very proud of our school district. I commend the board. I find it embarrassing for the parents who have stood up, basically chastising your decisions of how you have handled things. Overall, the Woodhaven School District is talked about all over the state of what we are doing and how we're doing it, and our kids are living almost a normal life. Now, with that being said, I know the Delta variant is very different. We just have to make sure we are given the choice, like you guys did last year. Teachers who want to stay home, do virtual. They're giving that choice. I do not think we need to mandate the masks. It is not good for the children. It is not good that all day. The oxygenation, the irritation, them pulling it down, you don't think they're contaminating that more than anything? These kids, we can't do this, parents, and you cannot do this to the board. It's absolutely not right. They have all of our children's best interests in mind and their staff, and it's wrong. It's absolutely 100% wrong. Please just give us the choice like you did last year. Things went very smooth. The kids that missed out, was that the best decision? Pulling these kids out because they were traced, in the high school, you'd have a kid that tested positive. So the 4 kids sitting around them in class had to be quarantined for 10 days. Absolutely not. How do we know that was right? I just want the choice to wear a mask if I want to, not wear one. And our kids deserve that choice as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I believe it's via Zoom, is Lindsay.
Abel, what did we just get done saying? Literally. Just got done.
2 students in Woodhaven Elementary Schools. Both my kids are at Irving. I appreciate the hard work that the board has done, not just this year, but last year, with leading the downriver community and getting our kids in person from the get. My husband and I saw the unfortunate side effects that COVID brought on the mental health angle. Our 3rd grader, she's going into 3rd grade, was diagnosed with PTSD last August, with secondary panic attacks. We've worked hand in hand with our pediatrician and a therapist weekly from August of 2020 until now. When we took a pause in November through January of the last school year, the progress she made not only stalled, but she took 3 steps backwards. As we headed into May and June and the leniency of masks outside was announced at school, she thrived. Last summer, she was depressed, withdrawn, had panic attacks that lasted for hours. She didn't go outside. We don't have any pictures of our daughter smiling last summer. Her wish for 2021 on New Year's Eve was for COVID to be better. That was what my 7-year-old wished for the new year. Our children have lived a very normal life this summer. Both of our children have. No masks are required for any activities that they go to or sporting events. During our first appointment with her therapist last August, I asked if we would ever get our girl back. And I can tell you now that our daughter is back and she smiles, real smiles again. Keeping her home because we don't want to put a mask on her is not an option, because that would walk back every step that she's made. And sending her to school in a mask would do the same thing. We will mask our children if it is mandated, but we do appreciate the option of it being a choice. My husband and I both are healthcare professionals and understand the fluidity of this situation, but we personally believe masks on children are unwarranted. Our children are not super spreaders. MDHHS only recommends masks. The CDC recommends a lot of things, like not to be overweight. We can only take recommendations at face value. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Victoria, I believe via Zoom. If you could state your name and address.
Oops, sorry. Okay, am I unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, my name is Victoria Colon. I live at 16566 Pinecone Drive in Woodhaven. I have 2 kids at Yake. I wanted to kind of, well, at this point, you've heard a lot of it. I'm just kind of reiterating points that some of the other parents made. I do disagree with the COVID-19 policies that the board has set forth in the district right now. You all know that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, that the recommendation there is that schools require all staff and students to wear masks and social distance to best protect against this virus, especially around children under the age of 12, because they can't be vaccinated. My children were looking forward to going back to school this year, seeing old friends and making new ones. But now, even as case rates are going up in our community, we are relaxing guidelines that are meant to keep our children safe. What about our students and staff that are at higher risk or have disabilities? I feel like at this point, we are either sacrificing them or leaving them behind, and that's not fair to them. Another parent said just a couple of minutes ago that there was a 99.98 survival rate in children. That means a child has died. Another parent said that if we could save even one life by wearing masks, it would be worth it. And I agree with that. Somebody has died. Children have died. Which child are you going to sacrifice? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Melissa Yak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Melissa Yak. I live at 21597 Hildebrandt in Brownstown. I've been a resident in Woodhaven or Brownstown for 40 plus years. I've also been a teacher in the district for 16 years. And I also have 2 children in the district, one at Waginka Elementary and one at Brownstown Middle School this coming fall. I would just like to take the time to applaud the school board for making such a tough decision and allowing parents to have a choice. Last year was one of the most difficult years, not only in my teaching career, but also for my children in school. And I truly believe that you guys will always make the right decision for us. And I got to see it in both sides. In the classroom, at Irving where I work, the protocols that we followed were outstanding. Always cleaning, keeping our kids protected. And for my children that went to Waginka last year, same thing. I know that the variant has definitely, caused an uproar, but I also know, like other parents have said, that this is going to be here for a long time. At what point in time do we learn to live with this? I've seen my children both thrive, in school and out on the sports field. And I'm proud to say that, we try to stay as healthy as we can. And I know our school district will do the best they can to keep my kids healthy at school. Because I know as a teacher, I do that for every one of my students. And I applaud you guys for making such tough decisions every single day for our children in our district. And like I said, I've been I've been in this community for 40 plus years and working in the district for a very long time. So I wanted to thank each and every one of you for giving us a choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, this is via Zoom. We have Jenny. If you could state your name and address.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Jenny. I live in Flat Rock, but I have 2 children. One that goes to Irving Elementary and one that will be starting Brownstown Middle School this fall. I would like to say thank you. I was very excited when I read that the board was giving the parents the choice. I think that is very, very important. Not only because parents know their children best, but also because I feel that is every parent's right, regardless if you're for masks or not for masks, that you get to decide what is best for the children that you brought into this world. I would also like to bring up a few numbers. The survival rate for children with COVID, like the other parent said, is correct. It is 99%. The 2018-2019 period, there was more than 46,000 children hospitalized for flu during that period. I did not hear such an outpour for the flu. We have the flu vaccine. It's been around since the 40s. The flu is still here. There are thousands and thousands of deaths every year, children, elderly, healthy adults from the flu, and there was never once a mandate on masks. My son has very bad asthma along with a peanut allergy. He has a very hard time wearing masks, period, whether it be for just 10 minutes or up to 8 hours. I am very nervous. I pay attention to him. He participated in a outdoor activity with the school last year for him ending his 5th grade. And I was very, very nervous. I was at work, so I couldn't attend, but thankfully his teacher was kind enough to message back and forth with me due to the fact that he had to wear a mask, and my son tends to get flushed if he can't breathe correctly, and he doesn't want to say anything or speak up for fear of not doing the right thing in school. So I would constantly ask his teacher, please keep an eye on him. If he looks flushed, if he looks like he's breathing heavy, please ask him if he's okay and just let him pull it down beneath his nose. And I think that that is kind of ridiculous for parents to have to worry about sending their children to school where they're supposed to be comfortable and safe in a learning environment and grow. And I have to worry about whether or not my child can breathe. This is not, and COVID is a concern. I am a manager at a huge retailer. I have been for ever since this started. And in my opinion, if this was as serious as everyone is kind of making it out to be, to where our children should be in masks for 8 hours a day, then these huge retailers should have been shut down along with the mom and pop stores. Because I can tell you, when COVID started and the mom and pop stores shut down and schools shut down, everyone went out shopping because there was thousands of people in these stores, masked and unmasked. But I would like to just stress how important it is for a child, social interaction. My son is actually in speech therapy. He's had Miss Emily as a teacher, and she's amazing, and he's come so far. But I don't believe that if he has to wear a mask, that he's going to continue improving like he should, to where he doesn't need speech. Because in order to actually be able to sound out words, you have to see what your speech teacher's mouth is doing with those words. So again, I would just like to stress that the survival rate for COVID is 99%. There was 46,000 children between 2018, 2019. And you can look up for 2020 if anyone's wondering. They were hospitalized for the flu, and there was no masks during flu, which my kids have gotten. My son was hospitalized because of his asthma for flu. But I still am a strong believer that I think masks do more damage to children, short-term and long-term, than anything else. So thank you, board, for giving us the choice. Please do not take that away from the children and from the parents. And just thank you for the way you guys have handled this difficult decision during this time. And that's it.
Thank you. Next, we have Lisa. Here.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm actually from Riverview, and I'm with Shannon, going around to other school boards trying to support parents. I do have a niece that goes to the school district. Her brother will be going to Trenton. And I do have a son that just got engaged, bought a house in Wyandotte, who will be starting a family. And I think it's very important for us to bring light to the situation and what it really is about. For the woman that was talking about the children dying, I'd like her to know that children actually do die from vaccine injury also. I know two personally, and then I have a friend that's in this district that has two children that are documented vaccine injured, so that does happen. So you're comparing apples to oranges doesn't help. When there's a medical intervention, there's always a risk, and that should be left to the parents to make that decision. I love to go on and on about vaccines because I know that's what's coming next. This mask is just a smokescreen for what's really going on. But we're here to talk about the mask. A friend of mine texted me the other day and told me to look up 380.1307B. He just told me to Google it. And what I found was a revised School Code Act 451 of 1976. It's a statement of prohibited practices, and in that list of practices, one of the prohibited practices is any restraint that negatively impacts breathing. What I find is funny that you get all these people that are cherry-picking studies that have just come out, which this ain't new. We've been dealing with viruses for decades. There's plenty of science out there. OSHA has guidelines on how to wear masks, and is nothing of what they're saying today. They're saying that surgical masks do nothing for viruses. It does not keep them out. There's no way to keep a virus out with a surgical mask. And we're putting cloth, that's not even surgical mask, over our children's faces and thinking that's going to keep it out. I don't understand it. I don't understand where it's all coming from. And I don't understand why we are neglecting all the science that's been done over years and years by OSHA, by occupational hygienists, by industrial hygienists that write these regulations about masks, and we're just throwing it in the wind like it doesn't even matter. I understand this virus is real. My brother had it. Luckily, he didn't have horrible, symptoms from it. He was very mild. But there are other things that can be done, and we're learning as we go along that there's more and more that can be done. I applaud you guys, and I hope it stays, because if not, I'm going to have to learn how to homeschool my niece, and I really don't want to do that. She wants to be in school, but it affected her last year. I could see it. My brother could see it. The teeth issue, I think Shannon mentioned about the cavity problem, her attitude, everything has changed, and it should be a parent's choice. It should not be the state, the federal government, the CDC. Do your own research and make the decision yourself. You can go both ways. We can sit here all day and go apples to oranges, apples to oranges. There's science. There's tons of science out there. But the fact is that it should be the parent's choice. It should be your choice to vaccinate your child. It should be your choice to put a mask on your child. It should be your choice for anything that has to do with your child, and it should not be left to the district, the state, or the federal government. There's tons I would like to go over, but I know I'm not going to have enough time. I tell everybody, OSHA has regulations, and when it comes to masks, N95 is the closest thing that you're going to get to preventing a virus to getting through. And the nurses that talk should know this, that in order to wear an N95 mask, they have to be fit tested. They have to go through a class and learn how to properly wear it. It has to be tight. They have to go through a health screening, which asks you about lung disease and diabetes. And I mean, it's 8 pages long. And we're thinking we're protecting them by putting a piece of cloth over their mouth. It makes no sense to me. So I bid you guys to do your research. OSHA also found it really easy online. States that a surgical mask does nothing. Nothing. All it is a splash guard. They wear them so you don't get your spit in your patient that you're working on, that their stuff doesn't get on your face. It does not stop bacteria, and it does not stop virus. So this all makes no sense, absolutely no sense. So I say do your own research, and thank you for going the route you did, and I hope you stay this way, because if not, I'm going to tell all you parents, you need to pull, not just virtual school, you need to take your kids out of school. You need to homeschool them, because we need to fight back. We need to stick it where it counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and it looks like the last one here is Daniela.
My name's Daniela. I live in Brentwood. My daughter goes to Yake Elementary. So I've heard a lot of healthcare workers very, very worried about the kids getting COVID, really wanting the masks, saying unless you've actually done CPR on a child, you don't know what you're talking about. I want to say thank you, number one, for making it optional. Number two, I'm an ER nurse. I have done CPR on babies and on children. It is horrible. I do not want my child masked. And I'm going to tell you why. The German did a wide registry mask in children study for 26,000 children. 60% had irritability, 53% had headaches, difficulty concentrating was 50%, sadness 49%, malaise 42%, fatigue 37%, impaired learning 38%. The Danish study did a 6,000 people study, showed no significant reduction of COVID-19 compared to the ones that wore masks. The Vietnamese did studies on cloth mask particles, and it showed that the people who wore the cloth masks actually had higher rates of infection than the ones who did not wear them. If you really care about your children, then you need to understand about prevention. And prevention is not putting a mask on your child and causing them to have psychological, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical issues, learning issues. That's harming your child. It's child abuse. If you want to help your children, get your vitamin D levels checked. In your whole family, your children, your babies, get your vitamin Z, zinc levels checked. You need to have your vitamin D levels above 80, if you want to quote the CDC. That's what they said. When they sat there and did the study of all the people that died in the very beginning, their vitamin D levels were significantly low. That's why they died. They did not have the fighting mechanism of what vitamin D does, and zinc. So please get your vitamin D levels on your children if you're so scared that you want to put masks on them all the time. Director Robert Redfield from the CDC said he has not found any studies to actually back up having kids to wear masks by the CDC. That's concerning that all these other countries are doing mask studies, but not America. He also said that he doesn't recommend for the children to wear masks, and it should be left up to local. Dr. Lee Merritt at the White Coat Summit for American Frontline Doctors. She did a test where you wore a regular face mask, the surgical ones, and they put a man in it, and they sat there and put drywall dust on him. What they found was the drywall dust had 10 microns, and it was completely around the nose and the mouth when they took the mask off. That's where it saturated, was around the nose and the mouth. COVID is 0.1 microns. It is definitely going through the mask, and it's going to saturate in those areas. That is why it's increasing the chances of you getting sick. The parents did a study on the high wire. They actually took their mask, they cut it in half, they sent it to 2 different laboratories. What they found on it was MRSA, influenza, herpes 1, meningitis, staph, strep, bunch of other stuff. They never found COVID-19 because it's too small, it goes through the mask. Then what they're doing, it's like a petri dish on their face. They're touching it, they're going in their eyes, they're getting infections. It's lowering their immune system. It's not good for them. Mask mandates are physically, spiritually, and emotionally unsafe for our own children. CDC found mental health-related ER visits increased 31% 2020 for kids. 12 to 17-year-olds compared to 2019. CDC did mask studies from 1946 to July 2018. They did not do it from 2019 on. That showed no significant reduction in the influenza transmission with face masks. COVID particles are smaller than influenza. This is science. You guys are doing the right thing by protecting our children from having to wear masks mandated. Thank you. Studies have shown that masks decrease oxygen levels in the blood. It increases carbon dioxide, and then the viral load increases, which makes you more sicker. The CDC said suicide is the second leading cause of death in people from 10 to 34 years old, and that has increased since COVID started by 33%. We parents want all restrictions removed, no matter what the CDC, the health department, the governor, or the president wants, including testing, mandating, or COVID injections. Last year, homeschooling quadrupled in America. The longer you mandate these masks, testings, and vaccines to our children, the more kids will be pulled out of schools, unfortunately. If you go with mask mandates and enforce vaccines, you will be complicit as working against our parents' rights and the Constitution of America. I want you all to rise up and not make these children live in tyranny any minute longer. And now my daughter would like to say something to you as well, because this is how she would speak about rising up. This is Arabella Pankey.
You're broken down and I from living life on the merry-go-round. And you can find the fighter. I see you, so we go walk it out and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like this day. Rise up in spite of the odds. We'll rise up and we'll do it 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, we'll rise unafraid. We'll rise up in spite of the odds. We'll rise up and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. Rise up in spite of the odds. We'll rise up and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other, and we'll rise, no, we'll rise, oh, we'll rise up, rise like the waves, we'll rise up, in spite of the odds, I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up, I like the waves, we'll rise up, we'll rise unafraid, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again, for you, for you, for you, for you.
Thank you, Arabella. And we will rise up, you guys. I don't want you guys to be afraid. There's ivermectin at American Frontline Doctors. You guys can purchase that on your own. You don't need a doctor, your regular doctor. They will give you ivermectin for those who do not want the vaccine. That is healthy. That's been 60 years of long-term data compared to the vaccine as well. Please, the Bible says, do not fear. Over 300 times, it was the most one thing that God wanted to tell everybody. Do not be afraid. And do not hurt our children because you're afraid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our hearing of the public. I want to thank everybody for speaking. I know there's all different sides to everybody, and everybody has their opinions, and I can speak for myself, and I think the rest of the board, when we say in every decision we make, we always keep our students' best interests in mind. And no decision is going to be easy, but please know that we do it with our students in mind. And next we have Mr. Greathead, Superintendent Report.
Yeah, I'd like the Board of Education to know that the following resignations have been accepted. They are Elise Beach, Waginka Elementary School Speech and Language, Brooke Brennan, JV Girls Basketball Assistant Coach, Heidi Cousineau, Bates Elementary 2nd grade, Myron Covington, Brownstown Middle School English Language Arts, John Drum, Middle School Cross Country, Rochelle Droscher, Brownstown Middle School Administrative Assistant, Alicia Flynn, 7th grade volleyball, Deborah Foster, Special Services and Tote Administrative Assistant, Angela Henkowski, Varsity Girls Track, Christina Stratford, Special Education Paraprofessional, Brandon Suchecki, Brownstown Middle School English Language Arts and JV Football Assistant, and Gerald Zalewski, Patrick Henry Middle School Social Studies and English Language Arts. The Woodhaven Brownstown School District and administrative staff continue to plan for the 2021-22 school year. We're in the process of going through enrollments as they do every time at this time of the school year, or this time of the summer, I should say, have stepped up and increased significantly. We're bringing in extra help at the front desk. Monique is doing a fantastic job there. We're in the process of placing our schools of choice elementary students and putting everything that needs to be in place for us to successfully start the 2021-22 school year. Thank you.
Okay, and last we have board member comments.
I just had something short. Earlier, I voted against the appointment of our new assistant AD. The reason I voted no was not because of the qualifications of Ms. Flynn, but because of the process. I believe that our superintendent should be involved in all administrative staff interviews and appointments. If a board member has a question, he should be the only person that we go to. And I feel strongly about that, and I'd like the HR committee to follow up on that. And again, if it's not a policy, it should be a policy. So it was nothing against Ms. Flynn or the process, but the process of the superintendent not being involved.
Thank you. Anything else?
I'll just echo your comments about people coming out and speaking out. Whatever side you sit on, I think it's engaged community is what makes us work, and what I'm super proud to be a part of it. And so everybody that came out and spoke your piece, it was, for the most part, it was done respectfully and thoughtfully and with heart, and I appreciate that. And as someone on the HR committee, I'm sure we'll be talking about what you just brought up, Mr. Harris, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I also just want to echo that and clarify to everybody, because it came up a couple of times, that the Open Meetings Act in Michigan says that any member of the public has the right to speak before a public body, whether they're part of the school district, live in the school district. So that's why anyone is allowed to stand up and speak. So just for anyone that didn't know that and why we were discussing it earlier. It is nice to know who is part of the district, but anyone can get up and speak.
Thank you. Anything else?
Mercy.
I want to say thank you once again to all of the new hires coming into our district. You guys bring tremendous experience and background and energy. And I know it was a long meeting tonight, but there's going to be a lot of great stuff happening, and I know you'll all be part of it. So again, thank you, and athletic director, assistant athletic director. I don't want to step on Mr. Picano. So it's just, the meetings ebb and flow, and this was one of those where I'm just happy that you're all here. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything else? Okay, if not, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:30 p.m. Our next meeting will take place on Tuesday, September 14th at 5:30 p.m. at our administration offices on Hall Road. Thank you guys. Have a good night.